Welcome to the Eczema Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Julia Chen. I'm here to help you heal your eczema naturally so you can finally live your best damn life. Many years ago in my own eczema healing journey, I was stuck and confused on how to heal my skin. Fast forward to today, after many lessons learned and lots of trial and error, I'm now living my best life and traveling the world with clearer skin. If you're an eczema or TSW warrior who desires a life of food freedom and is wanting to heal your skin without steroids while using mindset and manifestation as a tool, you're in the right place. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to the Eczema Warrior podcast. I am super excited today because it's my first episode where I'm doing it with a guest and my friend Mike here.
Hello.
And today we have a very interesting topic. You guys know I love talking about mindset, manifestation when it comes to eczema healing. And Mike is also very into mindset as well. So I thought it'd be a perfect opportunity for him to teach us a little bit more about his mindset and the things that he does and stuff like that. So do you want to do introduction?
Yeah, of course. So I'm very, very happy to be here on this podcast. It's a great opportunity to just share what I have learned on my journey and just genuinely share what helped me. And if you can take something away from it and implement your life, I would be just very, very grateful for it. So I'll tell you a little bit of backstory about myself. I've been working on mindset for past 7 years. And the reason is very simple. I started very early my journey around when I was 15 years old, and I was super much into business. I tried so many things and I always hit certain ceiling level and I just could not pass the ceiling. I always got stuck at the same spot. And that led me trying so many different business models, working harder, different strategies and all those different things. And after maybe 3 or 4 years of trying different things out, I was just sitting home and just wondering, like, what else should I try? I felt like I tried everything, but then it really hit me. I haven't really tried to change myself because in the end, they are my results. And that led me into the mindset game and understanding myself better and changing myself. And interestingly enough, a few months after working on myself, I started to have very, very different experience and very different results. And one thing led to another. And here we go. I work on the mindset with my clients and helping them out.
It's incredible how much mindset can actually impact our life. And I always tell my clients this all the time where it's like, you know how you said you hit a ceiling when it comes to, I guess, your progress or yeah, same thing with like eczema healing too. A lot of us go on these diets, they take a bunch of supplements and then they don't see results. And I always say like strategy is important when you're trying to, start a business or work on your health or heal your eczema. But then if the mindset's not there, you kind of hit a plateau. So that's kind of what you're saying with like your life. You kind of just felt stuck.
Yeah. I really realized this. I give this example to everyone I introduce to kind of really explain what I actually do or what helped me. I feel like there are 3 different paradigms from which we can live. The first one is being, the second one is doing, and third one is having. And so most of my life, my focus was predominantly on doing and having. I was always thinking about what can I do, but implementing the strategies and the tactics and the business model and the work.
What's the next thing?
Yes, exactly. Because I always wanted to have, but I actually never asked myself, who do I actually need to be so I can have and so I can do? Because we often think that I do so I can be, but it's actually the other way around. I do because I am. And the example where I really fully understand this, and I give this to all of my clients, is do you know someone who is maybe slightly overweight and they always try to work on some diet or hit the gym? And at the beginning, it actually works. They start to get some results, but eventually they always come back to the starting point, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They come off the diet, the weight comes back.
Exactly. And then you have someone who is relatively fit and they just go to gym, they also exercise, literally do the same thing, but they progressively get better results. And the reason is because how they see themselves, what's their perception, is very, very different. So someone who is being overweight start doing these exercises to become, and it doesn't actually work like that. You need to change your perception of yourself, and then the diet and the exercise is the natural consequence of who you are, right? Then the results further reinforce that perception that you have of yourself. So, yeah.
So would you say that would be the same for like people with eczema too? Like they would have to change the way they see themselves in order to see healing?
Absolutely. I've seen this I haven't experienced eczema, but I can really relate to this example I shared with you, because I actually used to be slightly overweight, right? And I felt like the gym and the exercise and the diet's going to help me, but it never actually did. I always kept stuck on the same weight. But then something shifted in my mind. I think this was quite unconscious shift. I just unconsciously became someone who is slim and in a good shape. And then no matter what I ate or how much I exercise, I always stay at the same model, because that was my perception of myself. And I truly believe this is like applicable to every single area of life, whatever it is. If we can truly change the self-perception and believe that it's possible, or this is who we are, then everything else will change.
Right. And that's going to be our like topic today. We're going to talk a lot about like our thoughts, our emotions, how that affects our beliefs, and how that can actually impact eczema healing as well. So I'm very excited to like dive into all of it. So that was a pretty, I guess, like a long introduction, but yeah. So what exactly do you do, just so my audience is aware of, like, I know that you're like an entrepreneur, you help people with their mindset, but exactly like how would you describe your...
Yeah. So I work mostly with entrepreneurs. It's not limited to them, but it's a target group I can super much relate, because I was interested in entrepreneurship myself. And usually these kind of people are very determined people of getting some results. They are driven. It's good to work with them. And so I first help them to ground themselves in who they are and master it in the world. And from this state of non-resistance to the current reality, we choose who they want to become to achieve those things that they want. So that's in a nutshell what I do.
Amazing.
Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure it does. Okay, so should we get into like more of the mindset topic, thoughts,
Absolutely.
emotions, beliefs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess, so when I coach my clients and we talk a lot about like negative thinking and thoughts and how we think about ourselves, a lot of the common thoughts that we have as eczema warriors is that it's difficult for us to believe that we can heal, especially when we're dealing with the flares. They take a lot of time for results to come. Just like when someone wants to lose weight, it doesn't kind of happen overnight, right? It takes like consistency, it takes work. So can you tell our audience and tell me as well, like, how do our thoughts and our beliefs about ourselves, how does that impact results? And how does that either move you forward or bring you backwards if it does do that?
Okay, that's a little bit complex question.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah, I think there is a lot to it. We can talk about beliefs like for ages, but in a super simple example, the way beliefs affect our action, I always try to see it in like a form of triad. So there is a thought, then there is an emotion, and then there is the action. We can all even relate to this, that most of our behaviors are driven by our emotion, whether it's we are conscious of it or not. We either do something to avoid the pain, or we do something to feel pleasure, right?
Yes.
So most, like 99% of our behaviors are driven by emotions. And we don't actually realize what is causing these emotions. These emotions are caused by the thoughts that we are thinking.
Right? Yes, exactly.
If we are in alignment with what we want, we are most of the time feeling positive emotions. And these positive emotions impel us to act. And the actions actually create the results that further reinforce the original thoughts, right? But if we are acting out of negative emotion, it usually comes from misaligned thinking, which also creates results that will further reinforce the original thought.
Right. It's like
it loops all the time.
Yeah. Give us an example, like a certain thought you used to have that created an emotion, and then it caused you to do like or have a certain action, and then led to a certain result, for example.
So to maybe give you a little bit of an example, like for me, the biggest problem was money related, right? It was not in the case that I didn't have enough money, but I felt like I was not where I want to be with life in terms of my finances, because I feel like sometimes my goals are so big, and so I need to do more. And this thinking of me not being where I think I should, and the should is a very important thing. It means misaligned thinking, because reality is, this is where I am. This is where I'm meant to be. That's why I'm here.
Right.
But I was perceiving this moment as something wrong, which created negative emotion. I felt like I need to do more. I need to do something about it. And it came out of the resistance to the present moment. So the emotion was quite negative. And because of that, I started to act on dissatisfaction with present moment. We just created more of dissatisfaction, right? Because that was my intention behind. My focus was just trying to escape something I don't like instead of trying to create what I like.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then when you're in that phase in your life where you're struggling with, you're wanting to make more money, how do you change your perception, especially when your reality is like, yep, you're not making the money that you want. Similarly with eczema healing, a lot of my clients, when you're literally in the middle of a flare, how do you change your perception of that? It's difficult, obviously.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And you just can't change your perception if your reality is hitting you very, very, very hard.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't.
That's the reality of it. It's happening right in front of you.
That's the reality. The best thing that you can do is actually take off your attention of the subject and put it on something else, because I'm a strong believer in the law of attraction. So as you are, I experienced it many times. And when you're trying to change the reality and you're feeling negative about it, you're just creating more of it because you are fighting it and resisting it.
Yeah.
And this is very hard to change it. The best thing, or I do, and I advise all of my clients actually to take off the attention of the subject and focusing on something else. Focus on something else that actually works out in your life. So for example, when I had the money issues, I was focusing on my relationship, which was going great. I was focusing on my health, which was going great, and other different things which put me in a state of appreciation and gratitude. And when I felt internally better, it was easier for me to look at that subject because it was not all black and white.
That's so interesting that you're saying this, because this is literally how I heal my own eczema. Whenever I go through, because I still have eczema, it's like part of me. Yeah. Whenever I go through a flare in the past, I would just worry about how to heal it, look at my skin all the time, be obsessive over it. And my audience, you guys know this, when you go through a flare, it's you just look at your skin, you're wondering when it's going to heal. Yeah. But one of the strategies I teach my clients is to actually take your attention elsewhere. Yeah. You know the saying, where your attention goes, energy flows. Yeah. So if your attention is always on the money you don't have, the skin that you don't have, it's not clear, or you're just at a point in your life where you're just not happy about where you're at, then you're going to attract more of that. Yeah. Versus if you focus on all the other amazing things that you have in your life, like you said, your relationship at that time in your life was doing well. I'm sure a lot of you can also pick out 10 things that were great today, that happened today, Yeah. You were able to wake up. Yeah. You were able to have a roof over your head, right? There's so many other things we can be grateful for. So when we focus on those things, the original thing that you're worrying about, whether it's skin flaring, because this is the podcast about eczema, but that also heals too. Absolutely. It's very important to really withdraw the attention from the unwanted and actually place your energy something else. And like you said, when you're in that better state, it's easier to look at the problem because there is a different energy behind it, looking at it. And also the second thing I would say, if you want to change your perception or change the outcomes that you have, you just cannot jump. It's never about jumping. People think I need to change my belief from being poor to being rich, which doesn't work. First step is actually befriending the present moment, because that's the reality of what it is. Befriending the fact that you're poor. Exactly. Just like you're befriending the fact that your eczema is flaring. Exactly. It's not even that I'm befriending that I'm poor, but I'm changing my perception on what I'm experiencing. Am I necessarily poor? Well, that could just be just perception. That's just the perception of it, right? Yeah. It's I'll give you an example. In Western cultures, when someone dies, it's a little bit sad. People are very sad about it, right? We cry. We are someone left us. Mm-hmm. But in some other cultures, they celebrate when someone dies. It's literally the same thing, the same event, but how it's perceived, it's very different, right? And so what you are experiencing right now can be perceived as something negative or something positive, and it's your choice. It's very hard to perceive it as something positive if you are in that negative emotional state. Right. That's why it's good to take your attention away from it, look at some other areas that are going great, and from that place to actually change your perception of what you're experiencing and befriending it. Because once you befriend the reality, you're no longer fighting it. You're no longer resisting it. And we kind of say this all the time, whatever you resist, right? Yes, yeah. Because you are giving it your attention. By trying to escape it, trying to change it, we are identified with it. Why would I try to change something if it's not part of my life, right? You know what I mean? Or even let's say I wanted to be rich and I was focusing, I need to be rich. I need to be thinking these thoughts. But then if I would be truly rich, would I be thinking this about all the time? No, because you already are. I am, right? Yeah. And so the same goes I need to be healthy, or I need to be, it's you are not, because you are rich. Because you keep thinking you're not at the moment. Yeah. Exactly. So
And maybe the last thing that I would like to add to this that really, really helped me to realize is that mind is a very target-oriented device. It always brings you closer to subject of your thoughts. Wherever you place your attention, you always move towards it. And I really saw this. I used to live in Germany, and they have these massive highway without speed limit. But because,
oh my God.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because even though you have no speed limit, like every 20 kilometers, there is like some construction work on the highway. And so the lines, they get very, very tight. And sometimes you drive next to the huge truck in a very small line.
Like one lane?
Yeah, like you're next to each other and very, very close. So you have to focus so you don't hit the car. And I remember thinking about, I don't want to hit the track. And the more I was thinking about not hitting the track, the more I felt like I was driving with the car closer to it because that was center of my attention.
You're focusing on the
Avoiding
track.
the track was actually me bringing me closer to the track because my mind doesn't understand the context of it. It only focuses on the purified content of what I'm thinking about. And so when I'm focusing on resisting that I don't have money or having eczema flare or whatever it might be, that's the center of my attention. And subconsciously, I'm moving closer to it and experiencing more of it. And what I did was like, okay, I don't want to think about what I don't want. What do I actually want? I want to be in my line. And I was like, okay, from focusing on the track, I focused on my line in front of me. And I was focusing, okay, this is my line. This is where I'm staying. And all of a sudden I was not getting close to the track. I was just staying in my line, right? Because that was my focus of attention. I completely blew out there was some track next to me. I was just focusing where I'm going and my mind was doing the job for me. So when we are resisting present moment and we are trying to say, I am like, but there's that resistance. I have the eczema flare and I can't maybe entirely relate because I haven't experienced it, but I truly believe these principles apply to everything, is that you cannot get there from there. You first need to allow the present moment to be, because if you are resisting it, like me resisting getting closer to the track, the more I was getting there. Whereas if I'm okay with being the track there, and instead of like, okay, I understand this is what I miss, it's not anymore center of my attention, but rather where do I want to take it? And then my mind started to take me there, if that makes sense.
So it's kind of like letting, like in the context of eczema, just letting it happen.
Yes, allowing it to be, because this is too part of you, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, this happened to you and it's too part of you. And this part of you also wants to be acknowledged and loved and not thought, just more understood. If that
Yeah. I mean, like I always say, like your body is always giving you signs and symptoms, and eczema is one of them. It's your body trying to communicate with you and tell you something's out of balance. So instead of resisting it, be like, what the hell's going on? Or why is it happening to me? It's more like, okay, you know what? Like this is a lesson for me to understand what I need to change. Is it I need to work on my prioritize self-care? Is it that I need to, I don't know, work better on my diet? Like whatever it is, it's just like your body's not against you. Kind of like that?
Exactly. Yeah. I truly believe that any challenge that we encounter in our life has potential to awaken us some more, meaning we can become more aware and more in touch with who we are. And so we either can see it as an opportunity, or we can get deeper in the sleep, meaning becoming more unconscious and just run everything on autopilot. So these challenges, maybe with eczema healing, it's a great opportunity to get to know yourself, work on yourself, and just really understand yourself and how your mind works, how your emotion works, who you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I always say, you know, when you go through challenges in your life, that's actually when you learn the most.
Yeah.
You don't learn anything when things are always amazing.
Yeah.
You learn so much when you're going through shit. Like, honestly, it's like, it's crazy. It's all about how you think of it. You know, you can think of a challenge as like, oh, this is happening to me and everything sucks and why is this happening or whatever. Or you can be like, you know what? This is actually an opportunity for me to learn about myself and learn about why my eczema is flaring and things like that. So it's interesting perspective.
Exactly. And when you are able to see that eczema flare from this place, I believe, and you need to emotionally feel it. It's not just like, oh, I choose to see. You need to actually feel it and allow it, right? That's what it means, not resisting and befriending that present moment. Just being okay. Like right now, I have a flare. It's not the most comfortable thing, probably from different reasons. But it is what it is, and it's too part of me, and I allow it to be. And let's see what I can learn from it. Like this place of non-resistance, just acceptance, is the best place to be, because from there it's much easier to change your thinking, right? And take it where you want it to be. But first, it always comes the acknowledgement and acceptance of where we are, because then the change only can happen. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so do you want to tell us more about, I mean, we kind of talked a little bit of everything already, but just, we love this topic. We can talk about it. We've talked about this for hours, like before.
We can really talk about this for
This is how Mike and I became friends. We met at the gym here in Chiang Mai, Thailand. And then how did we know that we were both into mindset? I feel like it just...
Yeah, one night, I think it was interesting how it works, because we are like encountering each other in different gyms. Then outside, I was like, she must be stalking me or something.
At different cafes. I keep running to this guy, like, into the city.
And then once, like, we were like, okay, it's like too much. We just need to talk.
Yeah.
We just talk, and first few sentences was like, okay, like, she's into eczema healing and through the mindset. I was like, that's amazing. I'm into mindset. I love it. And we just started to talk about different avenues of mindset, spirituality a little bit, and also law of attraction, which is literally one and the same thing from different angles, looking at the one thing from a different angle. So yeah. So that's how we kind of became friends and started to talk a lot about this, right?
It's really interesting because I feel like, so we both travel, and I feel like meeting people, when it comes to like the topic of mindset, you can kind of feel who's like knows about it or like interested about like self-development and growth. So with you, I was like, oh, like you're into that, and like I'm into it as well. So we just automatically just like bonded very well. And then we just had like hours of just like talking about mindset, which is interesting. Anyways, bit of a side note of how we met, but getting back into where were we? I guess how like to reprogram your beliefs.
Yeah,
should we talk about that.
Yeah, let's try that. I hope I don't make it too complex. But like what we do in my program with my clients, what really, really helped me. So I'll try to share it as best as I can. So I see beliefs that there are 3 different levels. So the first one level is thoughts. And these are literally just thoughts. They're data in, data out. Like we don't have any emotional attachment to it. Like can be like, I don't know, I would like to have a breakfast, right? So that's just a thought. And then the second level is level of beliefs. And the level of beliefs starts to be a little bit interesting, because belief, for me, there are 2 important characteristics for it. So it's a thought that we keep thinking over and over again, whether we are conscious of it or not. So it's reoccurring thought, pretty much constant. And the second important characteristic for belief is that there is emotional intensity to it. We are on some level identified with that thought, whether it's positive or not. It creates some emotional response to us. So if it's an empowering belief, of course, we feel empowered and like some positive emotion.
Right. But, and just to make it clear, the beliefs, a thought becomes a belief only when the thought is consistent, right? When it's reoccurring, like more often, and you start creating emotional attachment. From that thought.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then there's one more thing, which I'm going to share just in a second, like how you can reprogram it and how all beliefs happen. But I want to go to the third level, which is level of convictions. And we can say convictions are our core beliefs. In terms of beliefs, the level 2, what I was mentioning, we are somehow aware that it's maybe just a belief. It's not necessarily true, right? It's like tinted glasses that we wear. Like, okay, to give you an example, I used to think that it's hard to make money, but I knew that it's just a limiting belief, right? But then when we come to conviction or core beliefs, we don't actually perceive them as a belief. We perceive them as an ultimate truth, right? It's like sun is going to rise tomorrow. We don't question it, right? It's the ultimate truth. Okay. And we have some of these core beliefs, like maybe for me, not being able to make money was stemming from my core belief that I felt I'm not worthy enough, right?
Okay.
And I was not conscious of it, because we become conscious of these convictions usually only through repetition of certain events. In my case, was hitting the ceiling all the time and then realizing why I cannot do what I want. It's certain life events that repeat themselves over and over again. It's what points us what are our core beliefs. It's very hard to notice them.
But do you think it's from your past too, like how like your childhood as well, and the experiences in the past has created that core belief? All
of it, yeah. Usually between the ages until we are 6, 7, there is no conscious mind to filter, or there is no analytical mind to filter information out, and everything that we perceive from the environment, from our parents, from close people, literally gets soaked and absorbed on our subconsciousness, and we kind of take everything as ours. And this continues till maybe we are 12, and then everything just gets reinforced more and more and more.
Can you explain to us what the difference between subconscious and conscious mind is? Because I feel like even when I was learning about mindset, I was always confused between the two. And I think my audience would want to know like the difference. And we know that when it comes to like mindset and manifestation, like we always want to work on the subconscious. So how would you describe the two?
It's like the common analogy, like the
book analogy?
No, the iceberg analogy, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 5% is the conscious mind and the rest is subconscious mind. Just to give you perspective how powerful the subconscious mind is it regulates our blood circulation, temperature, our body movement. Like, I don't know how I do this, right? It's just my subconscious mind directing all of these things. So, automatic.
Yeah.
The breathing, the sleep, all of it is done subconscious. And sometimes it seems that the conscious mind is what is in control, but it's really not. Conscious mind, what I would say is actually, what it actually is what is in our immediate awareness right now. But our subconscious mind is perceiving much more things. So right now, as we are talking, you are aware of me saying some words, but are you aware of your big toe on your feet?
Now I am.
now you are.
Yeah,
because exactly. Yeah. Your conscious mind cannot understand many things at the same time. Only maybe 6 things at the same time you can be aware of. But your subconscious mind is perceiving everything. It's like the powerhouse. And most of your decisions are made based on what's is in your subconsciousness. It's really like a huge database of all information, shortcuts, habits, behaviors, patterns.
Thoughts, beliefs, all of that is stored in your subconscious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Fascinating.
It's fascinating. And it's so interesting because the subconscious mind is what is in control, but the conscious mind is the doing, but it makes it hard to reprogram the subconscious mind. So the small 5% make it sometimes very difficult to reprogram those 95.
So how do you reprogram the subconscious mind? And there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, there are so many different ways to do it.
And if you're someone who, let's say you have a lot of negative thoughts and negative beliefs about eczema healing, for example, I'm sure there's a lot of work that you have to do.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for any change to happen is the awareness and acceptance. So you need to first be aware of what are your limiting beliefs and limiting patterns, because how can you change something unless you know what you're changing, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you first
identify.
Exactly. And the best way to identify what are your limiting beliefs or negative thoughts is to look at your life, because life is a perfect mirror of what you believe to be true. What you're experiencing in your life perfectly reflects how you perceive yourself and what are your beliefs. So if you can see in your life what you're experiencing, it's going to point you to your inner world. From there,
of your
exactly. And state. From there, you can start to kind of like, okay, I'm experiencing this because, I'm on some level thinking this. And so you become first aware of what is that you don't want. And then you look at the life that you would like to be leading and ask yourself, okay, what would I actually have to believe to create that life? And now you know where you are and you know where you want to go. And it's once you're aware of these 2 points, it becomes much easier to start accordingly to what you want, right? Because you know what you're changing. So anytime it requires awareness and consciousness, because we're going to be pulled to make the same choices and behaviors and repeat them because that's in our subconsciousness. But once you know where you want to be going, you kind of start to respond to life and start choosing these new beliefs and new patterns.
I just want to add to that.
Yeah.
So you know how you said like your reality is as a mirror of what's going on in your internal state? I'm just thinking of an example when it comes to eczema, where so your gut and your skin are related. The health of your gut determines the health of your skin. So what you put in your body, like food, supplements, is kind of what we think about when you're like want to heal your gut, helps with the skin healing. And I think a lot of things that people don't really notice is that we know that we put good food and nutrients and supplements into our body that our skin's going to heal because of the whole microbiome and skin connection. But what about the thoughts that we put in our mind?
Oh, yeah.
Right? What about the beliefs we have? That also impacts our health. Like there's so much science behind like how our thoughts can impact.
Placebo effects. Like there are countless studies on placebo effects. Like, for example, there are like a study where
the muscle study,
even the muscle study, but also like even like with the calories, like for example, the scientists were giving the same drinks to people, and one of them were written low calories and one of them high calories, and the chemicals that the body started to produce was entirely different, and it was entirely the same drink. So your thoughts literally create your hormones and chemicals in your body. And not only that, but also what you experience in your outer world. So becoming aware of what's going on internally and be conscious of it and consciously choosing the new thoughts is what's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So going back to reprogramming your beliefs, like tell us about how you do that. Speaking to someone, who's listening right now and they're really struggling with the recurring negative thoughts. Maybe their skin's flaring a lot right now, or they're just not achieving the results that they want. What would you tell them in terms of their beliefs?
Okay. So first one, kindness to yourself and acceptance of where you are, being okay to think those thoughts, because it's been for some time that you've been thinking them and it's just not going to happen overnight that you're going to change them.
And we're all human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then coming to the characteristics I mentioned about belief. So the first one, to make belief, it needs to be reoccurring, right? We need to be thinking it over and over again to make it belief. And the second, we need to have emotional intensity to it. So if you want to create a new belief, you need to get emotionally involved with it. You need to actually feel good about it. It doesn't matter how you're going to get there. One of the best way is to say thank you, because thank you is a gratitude and appreciation. I think we talked about it.
Yeah. I was like, why does Mike always say thank you to everything?
I say a lot thank you because thank you means gratitude and appreciation, and it creates positive emotion in me. And so the emotional intensity is what really matters if you would like to create a new belief. So you choose consciously what is the thought that you want to create and make it a belief, and then you infuse it with emotion.
So I have a question about that. So what if what you're trying to, the thought that you're trying to have, the belief that you're trying to have, you don't actually believe it at that moment?
You don't have to believe it.
Okay.
You just, for example, in eczema healing, or for example, with me trying to become wealthy, my evidence was entirely opposite, right?
Yeah, we see the flares. We see that our bank account is not flowing.
Exactly. So, but in my mind, I can just think about, that would be nice to actually, without trying to make it, just the thought of it would be nice to actually be healed from eczema, or it would be nice to have that money without needing to have it, right? Just the pure thought of it. Or I don't need to actually make it happen. Just thinking about it feels nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just purely.
Because that's an emotion that you'll be attached to that thinking, to that thought.
This vision that I have, even though it's not real. Yeah, it can happen. Even though right now it's not reality, just purely thinking about it without trying to make it happen feels nice. When we say I need to make it happen, then it becomes a little bit,
you're desperate.
Yeah. Just purely imagine what you want and just feel it. It would be really nice to live this kind of life.
Okay, and that's all you need to do.
Yeah, and then, so and the more you can think about it, it will feel good, because that's what you meant to.
Repetition, yeah.
And that's also what you meant to be living, because otherwise it wouldn't feel good. That's why for someone else, that's why you and me don't have the same goals, because for you, something else feels right. And for me, something else feels right. And thinking about the things that are meant for us, they feel just right. It's emotion never lie. They always tell you if what you think about is right for you.
Okay.
So if it feels good, then it's what you're meant to be living, and you actually are supposed to experience it. You just need to stay with that thought for long enough and emotionally involve yourself with it. And then the last piece of it, to make it a conviction, which I was saying is the third level, there is something called reticular activating system. Have you heard about it? Yeah. So
the brain's filtering system.
Exactly. It loves to know, like I said, the conscious mind doesn't notice all the things, only notices what's relevant at the moment.
And only notices what?
What is relevant to you at any given moment. And because you have certain belief system, it notices things based on that belief system, and always find confirmations for your beliefs. Because like I said, beliefs are tinted glasses through which we see the world. And if we are looking for something consciously, unconsciously, we will always find it. So what you want to be doing, or what I do in all of my clients, is that once we identify what is our new belief and just purely enjoying the thought, just for sake of enjoying it right now, not making it happen in the world, is what creates the emotional intensity. And then during the day, use your reticular activating system consciously and find any evidence that supports this. So for example, for me, when I was struggling with the money, I was just not daydreaming, but just enjoying the thought of it, of having money. And then in the evening, every evening before I go to sleep, and I do it to this day, is I find any slightest evidence that supports the beliefs that I want to adopt. So for example, if someone gave me €2 or I found something on the floor like a money, oh, money is coming to me from everywhere. Thank you. I'm noticing every single evidence, every single win that corresponds with my new belief. And the more evidence I can find for it, the stronger the belief will become. And it doesn't matter how big or small the evidence is.
It still counts.
Exactly. As long as it's acknowledged, it will compound and become strong over time.
Right.
And if you can't find the evidence that particular day, I always look in the past, because there are days in the past where I make huge amounts of money, but I never acknowledged it, right?
Right.
And so I acknowledge every single day the beliefs I want to become part of my system, and I do it until they become part of my system. That makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So like for eczema healing, for example, if the belief is that you want your eczema to heal, find evidence. What you're saying is find evidence right now to show that your eczema is on its way to healing, right? Even if you don't see your skin physically healing, because the skin takes a long time to heal for some people, but think about like, your digestion, is it getting better? Are you sleeping better this week compared to last week? Have you noticed that you're a lot more positive when it comes to your mindset? Like all of these are little wins that we want to keep track.
Exactly.
Every day you're getting better. And those are the little things that add up to what you want to achieve.
Exactly.
But then sometimes as humans, we always just focus so much on the goal that we forget all like the part of the journey is doing these things to get there.
Exactly. The goal is only the result of who we are. It's not the other way around, that the goals make us someone. It's the other way around.
Usually people think of it that way. It's like, once I achieve this, I'm like this,
looking for the evidence is very, very crucial. And the more you can...
It helps build trust too.
It builds trust. And you can acknowledge all the other areas of your life as well. You can, in your mind, you can link anything to that belief, that like a final confirmation. Like you can really link almost anything that, okay, this belief is actually becoming part of me. It's happening what I want. But you need to really do it consciously, because your subconscious mind, like we're saying, is very powerful, and it runs on those old beliefs, and it's noticing evidence for those old beliefs. So you need to become aware in the present moment, or at least in the evening, and acknowledge all of the things that actually align with your new belief. And over time, from the neural perspective, these neural pathway that were forming that old belief will just start to fall apart, and you will be reinforcing new ones in your brain, and that will become predominant. New shortcut in your brain, new habit, new pattern, new way of thinking and feeling. And then it will just happen.
So do you have actual like mindfulness practices you would recommend someone who wants to start working on their beliefs? Like, is there something particular that you do? I'm a big fan of like meditation, and you are too, obviously. Journaling. Was there anything else that like you noticed like really effective?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are actually quite a few things that I do. Like there are 5 major practices, but I'll share with you one, because focusing like on too many things is like super overwhelming.
Yeah. It's like, I'm doing all these things. Why is it not working?
Yes.
So sometimes, simplicity is key.
Yeah. So before I get there with the journaling, I do every morning just acknowledge a gratitude and I consciously feel the gratitude. And in the evening, like I said, I acknowledge all the wins and things that align with my new beliefs. So these are like very, very powerful, and you need to do it consistently, not just 2 days in a week.
I think it's a challenge for a lot of people, though. Yeah. The consistency is difficult. Even for me, like, man, you journal every morning. I'm like, this week I probably journal like twice, But also don't be too hard on yourself if you can't be consistent all the time, because, life happens too.
But if you're really like 40 days, we know the word quarantine, right? It's come from Latin word quaranta, it's 40 days. And you can see it in many different religions that 40 days is actually something. It takes 40 days to get the disease or the bad thing out of your system. And also really start to...
It takes 40 days for your skin to regenerate.
Yes.
Around 30 to 40 days.
Exactly. Yeah. That's quarantine, right? And if you really would like to challenge yourself and really start implementing these new beliefs, once you choose what you want,
do it every day for 40 days.
For 40 days, challenge yourself consistently. And most importantly, when you acknowledge these wins or this confirmation, you need to emotionally involve yourself. It's not just a task that you write down because it's not going to work. You need to emotionally involve yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of been the overarching kind of topic today. Like, emotions is really key when you're trying to work on your mindset. It's one thing to just like, I don't know, think about it and like, that's it. You have to actually feel what you're thinking about for it to kind of happen into your reality, right?
Yeah. But the practice I wanted to share with you is called centering exercise, and it kind of... Centering exercise. Okay. So we live life between 2 screens, I believe. So one screen is focusing on the external world. Like, have you ever lost yourself in some kind of activity? Like you were doing work and for example, your friend came to talk to you and you completely ignored your friend because you were so immersed in what you were doing that you were not like recognizing that someone was trying to talk to you. So that's when we live in an external screen. And then there is an internal screen. This happens to me sometimes. Like, I'm looking for my phone and then some thoughts come into my mind and I'm like,
what am I doing again?
What am I? Yes, exactly. I got too lost in my thoughts. And so centering exercise is actually getting between of these two. Be aware of what I do and be aware of what I think. And so you get kind of present in the moment and you're aware of your surroundings. And when you are present, only when you are present, you can start reprogramming yourself during the day. Because like I said, the beliefs take repetition.
Yeah.
So you kind of center yourself, you choose your new thoughts, and then you choose to do the activity or whatever you do. You're very present with what you do. You think and feel and see what you do. It creates a state of being, a centering exercise. And there are 3 questions that you ask yourself before you start doing anything and become present, right? So ask myself, who am I? Where am I? And what am I doing? So who am I? I'm Mike. Where am I? I'm at your place. And what am I doing? We are doing this podcast. And so I become present. I tell myself I can see myself and I can see my reality. It's a little bit like I woke up from the dream, you know, like I'm a little bit like present. I'm behind the steering wheel. And then I choose an intention like, okay, how do I want to feel right now? And what do I want to think? I choose this state. And then I choose how I want to go about the action that we are doing. I chose consciously to be present in the podcast and just genuinely give my best, what is in me to serve people or to share what I have learned. Right. So you are present, you choose who you are, and then you go about your day. And you want to do this as much as you can because then you are in control, right? You are present, you know what you're thinking, and you are breaking the habit of being your old you and choosing someone else, being someone new.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I know there's so much. Like,
there's a lot. Yeah.
But there's centering. I don't think I've done that before.
Yeah.
Centering.
Yeah.
Are there resources that people can like use to learn how to center themselves when they're trying to?
And if like really what is the centering is about is just about becoming present in the moment.
Present you're centering yourself. You're like, being grounded.
I see where my mind is going and I see what are my actions. But have I chosen consciously to think about it and do those actions consciously? Not most of the time because it's autopilot everything, right? So when you center yourself, then you consciously choose how you want to think, how you want to feel, and what you want to do. And then just stay with it. You are behind the steering wheel, kind of.
How would you apply that to like people who are struggling with eczema flares?
With the eczema flares, I would apply that.
Would you apply like centering?
That's an interesting question because it's related to condition. I would center myself and I would express gratitude for something.
Okay.
I would center myself. I would thought about the belief I want to install of just to purely have that vision of me having
clear skin,
not to make it happen, because to make it happen is that pressure I always
talk. Pressure, yeah. Just more pressure, the harder it is.
Purely for enjoying the thought of it, like
and the feeling of it.
Yeah, just the feeling of it. I'm like, oh wow, this feels good, and I would say thank you for even being able to comprehend that thought. And then I would just
because not a lot of people can do that, right? Not a lot of people can comprehend that thought, or can everyone do that?
I really think that if you don't...
You set the intention.
Yeah, if you become present and you can just... You definitely can do that if you don't put the pressure of making it happen. The only time when you cannot enjoy the thought is...
when you're forcing it.
When you force... Like, I'm doing this thinking because I need to make it happen out there, you know?
Yeah.
It's really just about enjoying...
letting it go.
Yeah, enjoying the thought. And if it's a very hard subject for you, then be grateful for something else. Like we said, take off the attention from the subject.
Yeah.
And just express gratitude. Gratitude has very healing power. Like
lots of science behind that.
Yeah. So just express the gratitude for anything else and then consciously choose to do whatever you're doing. Like even if it's not related to eczema healing or anything
else.
If you just consciously choose, like, for example, right now I'm going to write a blog article or whatever, and I'm fully present with it and I'm not going to write my emails. I'm just present with it. And this is how I want it to be. It's very different. It's very powerful because whatever you're present with, what you do, you are much more effective in that. You do it very differently than just, like mindlessly going through it and then switching between one task and another task. So just set an intention how you want to go about the task and just do it fully. It will be very different. Like you will see very big effectiveness on this. But I feel like don't want to be overwhelming because it's like a long.
It's a lot. I know. But they're gonna love this though.
Yeah.
This episode, I feel like we talked about so much, and obviously we have so much more to talk about because it's just like a mindset, a journey. It's like incredible, and this is the whole reason why you do what you do, and I do what I do when it comes to mindset for eczema and mindset for entrepreneurs. Like, it's just like the foundation when it comes to everything, right? You need to have a solid mindset. You need to work on your beliefs and your thoughts if you want to attract good things in your life. And that's just the reality of working on yourself and believing what's possible for you.
It's very tricky as well because mind, I believe, is like the $1 trillion device, like the most expensive, amazing tool that we can all have. Can create anything we want, but no one gave us any manual how to use it.
No, literally, we were literally taught to like be stressed all the time in school. Like, we were just taught to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not working on.
Like, you buy Blender and you have 12 languages on how to use it, but like when it comes to this, like, we really are left in the dark. We need to figure out ourselves. I really believe there is a lot of power if we understand how the mind works and how to be gentle with it and direct it to where we want to.
Yeah, very powerful. Well, I don't want to keep this podcast. I don't want to keep you too long so we can talk forever. We're like, as this episode ends, we're going to keep talking for like 5 hours. But can you share with us maybe where people can find you if they want to learn more about mindset? Do you have like socials that people can follow? I have socials. I had like a very funny story I told you. My Instagram got hacked not long ago, deleted. That's
so I was like,
story.
Yeah. But it was good because I needed actually this to happen for something in my business to make changes. So I have Instagram. It's Mike Polonyi. Maybe, I don't know if you can drop somewhere. Yeah,
I'll put in the show notes for anyone who wants to follow Mike. Then just go in the show notes below. There's a link there.
Yeah. So. I would be happy to, whatever, any question, even to this podcast, I would be very happy to just share with you more or refer you some things that helped me out, whatever it could be. I'm happy to help.
Well, thank you for coming, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Audience, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple iTunes or Spotify or wherever you're listening, whatever platform you're listening on. Really appreciate it. It's going to help our podcast grow. And if you like more episodes with guest speakers, let me know as well. My DMs are open. You can DM me at juliachen.rd. And then Mike is also happy to chat more if you guys want to chat more about mindset.
You don't get me started on my side.
Clearly very passionate, which is good. Amazing. Well, thank you, Mike, for coming.
I'm very thankful too.
It's been good.
Enjoy your day, guys. Have a lovely one.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Now, before I let you go, I want to let you know I have this amazing eczema visualization. This visualization has helped me so much when it comes to manifesting eczema healing flares faster than I can ever imagine, reducing the itch, and just feeling great in my body. This is the exact same visualization I use for my own healing as well as my clients' healing as well. And if you want to receive this visualization, then all you have to do is leave us a review and tell us what you think about the podcast, screenshot it, send it to your email at hello@juliachen.ca, and you will receive the visualization to your inbox. I look forward to seeing your review, and we will see you in the next episode.